Anita will be delivering the Monash Israel oration on Thursday evening in 2 days' time on a totally different subject within her wide-ranging scholarship. There's a lot to tell about Anita, but having cut out the coffee, I shall also have to, unfortunately, shorten my presentation. Professor Shapira is the 2008 awardee of the Israel Prize, which is already been mentioned here as the state's highest academic honor. She's founder of the Yitzhak Rabin Center for Israel Studies. She's head of the Weizmann Institute for the Study of Zionism at Tel Aviv University. Since the year 2008, she's been, as just said, senior fellow at the Israel Democracy Institute, which is well represented around this table. Arik Armon will have to show up shortly, and I will just mention him in absentio as the president of the center, and Yedidia next to me is, of course, vice president. Professor Shapira specializes in modern and contemporary Jewish history, particularly in social and cultural history and questions of identity. She has been writing about Zionism and post-Zionism. Of her many books, I will only mention one of the earliest ones, very close to my heart, on Berl Katzenelson, a wonderful biography. He's done so much ever since, but that one remains close to my own heart. And as said, she will be delivering our annual oration, and her paper today is titled The Holocaust as the Zionist and Post-Zionist Narrative of Israel. Anita, bevakasha.
Thank you very much, Mania. It's a historical presentation, and I hope you'll bear with me when I take you through the historical timeline. In 1992, Ehud Barak, then Chief of Staff of the Israel Defense Forces, paid a visit to Auschwitz. In his speech at the camp memorial, he declared, "Here, at the end of March 1942, the gas chambers were first operated on a massive scale, and we, soldiers of the IDF, have arrived 50 years later, perhaps 50 years too late." These words bespeak of a view of the Holocaust held by many Israelis, ignoring sense of guilt over their failure to save European Jewry, mingled with a certain naivete about the European arena in which the catastrophe occurred, and an anachronistic historical perspective ascribing post factum to the tiny 1940s Yishuv in Palestine the capabilities of the IDF in particular and the state of Israel in general 50 years later. The current assumption, had the state of Israel been born before World War II, it would have been possible to save European Jewry. This is a characteristic assumption of the Zionist narrative of the Holocaust. The Holocaust was incorporated within the founding myth of the State of Israel virtually in real time. Though none could foresee the Holocaust, in retrospect, it was understood as the very same cataclysm that Zionism had darkly prophesied for Europe's Jews. Most survivors had not been Zionists, but the years of terror had kindled in them a sense of ethnic and national identification with the Jewish people. Their Zionism was not ideological, it was intuitive, articulating recognition of a shared faith. The study for a Jewish state provided Jews in Palestine, in the United States, and in the displaced persons camps in Germany and Austria with a positive goal to battle for, a lodestone to counter incipient inclinations to nihilism and desires for revenge that had surfaced in certain circles. The Holocaust was the nadir of despair. the state was the antipode of hope, symbolizing the brightening future. At the war's end, the creation of a Jewish state was perceived by Jews as a kind of compensation for the huge tragedy that had befallen European Jewry. Jews held on to the belief that the democratic world was an enlightened and just tribunal. It was inconceivable that Jews would not be compensated for all that had been perpetrated. The basic material and political foundations for establishing a Jewish state in Palestine had been laid before World War II. But the Holocaust infused the fight for independence with its emotional intensity, spiritual energy, and determination. The battle for opening the gates of Palestine to the She'erit HaPleda, to the surviving remnant of European Jewry, forged the link in Jewish public consciousness between Holocaust and rebirth, Tkuma,